Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I am once again going to be joined by a very special guest. This man is part of Chaos Theorem, the canon consultants that have been working on the JP franchise ever since the early production days of Jurassic World. So you've been in it deep with Universal for a few years now, haven't you, Jack?
Yes, we have, yeah. On and off recently because of recent events, but yeah, been in it for 6 years now. Yeah, since... oh god, early 2014, since April. There you go. Early
2014. Yeah, you have been in it for a long time. It's crazy to even think about how these movies, like the pipeline that they're in now with Dominion delayed. Yeah. Jurassic World's about to turn 5 years old, like in a month, which is also surreal.
I know. It seems surreal when you say 5 years. It's like halfway to a decade already since that film came out. Because to me, it still feels like really fresh and new.
Yeah, same here. It's very bizarre. But hey,
time, the ever-flowing river.
Okay, now, I've called you here today because we're going to be having a long, unscripted conversation on all things regarding the second island, Isla Sorna. And this is from the very beginning in old scripts that people don't talk about, that are long gone on Site B, as well as what's been going on with the island over the last 2 decades. And to begin, I kind of wanted to get just what do you think about Isla Sorna in general? Do you like the island? Do you dislike the island? What's Site B in your mind space?
So I love Site B, and I love the idea of a factory floor being an entire island, because to me it's like that means InGen had this notion to be like, okay, dinosaurs are big for the most part, or at least the ones we're cloning are big. So they need like a lot of room for them to, you know, run around. But it's also research purposes. It's like you can't research the full extent of your park assets if they're contained to a tiny little cage. So I kind of like this idea that they had this whole island separate from the park itself, where they were like, okay, this is the factory floor. This is where we're going to be building dinosaurs and give them wide open spaces and see what they need and this, that, and the other, just to experiment. I just have that idea of the whole experimental environment of Site B. That's my #1 love of that place.
Yeah, I love Site B too. Now, the experimental aspect of it was kind of folded into canon first with the second novel, The Lost World, because as we all know, or as we should know, Site B was not a thing until 1995, until Michael Crichton's sequel novel to the original Jurassic Park. Before then, it's all Nublar, baby. Like, literally, like, everything.
Well, wasn't there the computer screen in the original Jurassic Park that said something about different islands?
It does. I just did a video on that. You may have seen it. I don't know.
But it didn't say like Site B or anything specific.
No. It says like, it lists the islands off like 1 through 5, and then it says like USA and San Fran. I have no idea what it is. It could just be the sectors of Isla Nublar, or it could legitimately be other islands. We do know that Hammond planned other Jurassic Parks, like, you know, Jurassic Park Europe and such, but Site B, as we know it, most people came to know it from the Lost World Jurassic Park film, but, you know, other people through the novel. So, Isla Sorna and male dinosaurs. Now, as a kid, Jack, I gotta tell you, I thought one of either two things. #1, all of the male dinosaurs on Isla Sorna had previously been females, and they had undergone some sort of sexual transformation, like the frogs are talked about in the first movie, into males so they could reproduce. The other thing I thought that was possibly going on was that all of the male dinosaurs on Isla Sorna were first-generation wild-born dinosaurs. In other words, they were born, like the T-Rexes were born green. And the ones we see in the Lost World, like the male, is like the first like adult T-Rex that was born on the island from 2 females, where 1 female had turned into a male, and it had grown up like that. Now, you have something different to say about that, and I wanted to talk to you about it because it makes a lot more sense, but it's something that I don't think anybody's really seriously thought about, but it goes into this whole idea of Isla Sorna being kind of like a restricted and hush-hush secret experimentation place for InGen.
Well, we were talking about this off air not too long ago with other Jurassic fans, and it was just like I was shocked to learn that fans like yourself, when you were younger, thought that the dinosaurs changed from male to female on Isla Sorna.
Yeah, I really did.
Yeah, because to me that never occurred to me, and like I might be wrong, I might be in the minority here when it comes to this, but obviously we've written it into certain canon now, so it's like oops. But the idea of the male T-Rex, so you said it could once be that was the first generation, so like that could have been born from an egg that was birthed from two other T-Rexes, that one at least was female that had turned to male at some point. Is that what you mean?
That's the idea that makes a little more sense, but the main thing I really thought of as a kid was that T-Rex used to be a female, that was one of the 7 T-Rexes that InGen cloned. Right,
and that's what I have the biggest issue with. Because
and go ahead, because what you're saying makes so much more fucking sense.
Well, it's just there's so much differences in their designs for the male and female T-Rex. We're using that as one example. That the idea that a female T-Rex would suddenly physically change, not only just the coloration of the skin, that's kind of believable.
The skull structure, the throat wattle.
Skull structure, the throat wattle, the horns on the head, just everything about it. Like, to me, it's like that just doesn't work. The first generation idea works fine. Like that doesn't bother me whatsoever. But the idea we were coming at it in the canon was that InGen, when they were birthing the dinosaurs on the island back in the 80s, they were birthing males and females because they were just experimenting. They wanted to see what they could make, and that was the reason why when they came to make the park on Nublar, they decided, hey, we should probably make them all female, because if not, we are going to have uncontrolled breeding.
Well, also the whole idea of exactly. Well, the whole idea of why would you continuously clone the same animal that costs like probably millions of dollars in assets to do that, when you could just clone one male and one female and breed them, and then there you go, you've got dinosaurs for free.
And there's also this bit in the book where Wu talks about, like, one of his greatest achievements is the fact that they can breed.
That's right.
And obviously in that original book, they're growing just females, so it's like there's no males on the island whatsoever. So that's why he sees it as such an achievement. But in the film canon, we've always looked at it as like, and this can be leveled at not just us, but we got the idea, for the example of like when we were writing the content for the DPG website, we mentioned that 7 T-Rexes were born on Isla Sorna.
Trespasser.
One of which, and that originates that's a homage to a little Easter egg there for Trespasser fans, because that's what Hammond says. And we like the idea that, those 7 T-Rexes, one of which was moved over to Nublar, which would eventually become, the T-Rex, the Tyrannosaurus that we see in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World and that. But the other T-Rexes, like, one of them would have probably been the bull, one of them would have been the doe, and
the other ones,
and we don't know really who the other ones are. So to me, it's like, the idea of them cloning males on Site B has always just been, that's always just been a thing. Like, to me, that's no brainer. Because why wouldn't they clone males? Because you think they want to see what they can do with these dinosaurs before they show them to the public. They want to know what they've got. They want to know what they've got to show the public, and they want to pick and choose what they want to show the public. So it's like, if they inherently just don't make any males, it's like they're missing out on like all the stuff that could potentially arise from male dinosaurs, the colorations and all that sort of stuff. They wouldn't know about that.
Right.
So I don't think that they sat there and made that conscious decision. I think they were just cloning them to see what they got to begin with, and hey presto, some of them were males.
Yeah, I think logistically it would make a lot more sense anyways, because the whole, I had never questioned it really. It was just like the first time we see a male dinosaur technically I guess Jurassic Park, because the raptors are breeding, but the first time we see a male dinosaur that looks physically different is in the Lost World. And with that T-Rex,
and so the idea of them like changing sex and then breeding like that, I think that's happening on Sorna simultaneously to the fact that they also grew males. Like both are happening, especially with the raptors. But in the film canon, we only really are told that the raptors are the ones that change sex. We're not really told that any other species can do that, right?
That's right.
I mean, Hammond says, "My God, they're flourishing," but he's also talking about the lysine contingency at that point. It's not just, you can read it any way you really want, but as far as I can tell, the only species in the film canon that we know physically changes sex from male to female in a single-sex environment are the raptors.
Right.
Everything else is up for complete speculation.
And it should be, because in the original novel, not every species was capable of reproduction. Because if you looked at the, Ray Arnold's chart of all the animals that were breeding, not all of the numbers were going up because not all of them had the frog DNA. They used other stuff in their systems to bring them back to, life. And I think also it plays into the fact that in the Lost World novel, there are no Dilophosaurs. There's no Dilophosaurs in the Lost World Jurassic Park film, except for on the, you know what I mean, like inside of the RV, like on a computer screen where it says like Dilophosaurs, 20 feet long. But in the novels, not all the dinosaurs could breed. It was a special select few. And in the film, the first film, the only one that we knew for a fact could was the raptors because of those two-toed footprints with the raised killing claw.
And we do see baby Gallimimus in Jurassic Park, but then again, they might have just been newly cloned or bred. So
they look different too. They've got like the fawn like spots. Nobody talks about that. Like, this is probably the first YouTube video to talk about these Gallimimus looking different.
And it's like with the idea is the park workers, they could be new ones that they just put out there in the park, like, or the film could be hinting at the fact that they're breeding as well, which it's
very possible. It could work. But the whole logistical idea of the animal like completely redesigning its own skull structure to like be a male, like what purpose is that? Why wouldn't the body just change the gonadal tissue to reproduce? Like, I get how silly it is looking back on it. That's why I wanted to talk to you about that. And the idea of InGen cloning males does make a lot more logistical sense on just a business that these guys are running of cloning dinosaurs.
Yeah, I just need to check something. Because I remember something about the Endoraptor being a pivotal male dinosaur in the series.
Yeah, it's like the first one specifically designed to be a male was something in the marketing or something.
Yeah, so that I couldn't find it. I'm looking at the survival guide book. I know it's not the most trustworthy of books, but there's a whole page.
I think a Mattel person said that at a toy fair a few years ago.
That's it. Yeah. So to not confuse things, just to leave no stone unturned. The idea behind the Endoraptors is the first one specifically designed to be a male, whereas so when they're cloning them on Sorna in the early days, it's not like they were specifically cloning males. It's like they were just cloning to see what they had, because like when you get DNA out of amber, you don't know what that dinosaur is until you clone it. And then you see it, and then you can identify it and go, okay, 2 fingers, bipedal.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's most likely a T-Rex. I
think the big discrepancy here between like why we're even having this discussion is that in the original Jurassic Park, they made it so easy in explaining this to the audience because they had the Mr. DNA cartoon that gave exposition in a way that made sense for not only adults but children. It showed how they got the DNA out of the mosquito and the amber, and then you went directly to the lab to see like how the animals were being worked on by Dr. Wu. You didn't really need to explain a lot. Then you get to the Lost World, and you just got Hammond sitting on his bed saying like, my God, they're flourishing. What about the lysine contingency? Oh, that shit don't work. like there's all this added stuff that just isn't introduced to the audience as effectively as Jurassic Park, if that makes any sense. And also because the information that's being introduced in the second movie directly contradicts and even sometimes outright retcons what happens in the first film, or makes Hammond out to be a liar. I mean, like his whole.
Well, we know Hammond's a liar.
Yeah, we do now, but
I'm very much against Hammond.
Oh. Really?
I'm one of those people. I love Hammond as a character, but I don't think he's as nice and chuckling as friendly as a lot of people seem to think he is.
Well, there's scenes in Jurassic Park where he gets kind of angry. He's like, "Damn!" when he slams his fist down.
I'm talking more Lost World. I'm talking post not endorsing the park. I still think he's a manipulative, conniving, scheming little weasel.
Yeah,
I really think. really think he is, because there's the whole like he calls Sarah.
Oh, don't, dude. Yeah, that's.
But there's conflicting things. He says she came to me, and then we find out Malcolm doesn't believe him, so that's why he says to Sarah, when Hammond called you, why didn't you say something to me? And then she doesn't deny it. She says, because I knew you'd tie me to the bed. And it's like, she doesn't say, I called Hammond, Malcolm. This was my idea. She doesn't even like refute it.
You're right. Yeah, he is a bastard.
Malcolm. So when Hammond panics and says, we've got our paleontologist, he's hiding information from Malcolm right then and there.
Right. Yeah.
And then when Malcolm questions him, he panics, goes, she came to me. It's like, Hammond, stop
lying.
Well, as Malcolm perfectly puts it, stop putting your name on people's headstones.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. Hammond is scheming. Like, I don't believe him. Whatever he says, I'm like, I don't believe.
I love the older, like, it's still in the comic adaptation, but there's older scripts where Hammond actually, his dialogue just straight up says, I can't have walked so far to leave no footsteps. In other words, like, you're going to Sorna because I don't want my name like forgotten in the mud. Like, damn it, some way I'm gonna be well remembered for these dinosaurs I've created, which isn't in the final film, but all the stuff you just did say is, which I've never thought about. I love John Hammond's, that greedy bastard.
Well, the other reason I bring that up is because I think what you just said about the Lost World not giving like clear exposition, like part of me kind of likes that, because then when you listen to the way the wordplay and what's happening, like, it takes years and years to actually almost decode what's really happening in the film.
But is that great or is that questionable? Like, that's
to me. Well, I'm just saying, for my own personal,
I love that movie.
I like that because it's because it leaves me something to chew on. Lots of people will watch, like, for example, lots of people watch The Lost World and go, well, this is goofy and rubbish, and just turn it off. Like, a lot of people don't like The Lost World. Whereas I do like The Lost World, despite its like major flaws that the film has. I do like to watch it, and then I'm like, well, hang on, I don't think people are reading what these characters like. If you've got to listen to the way characters talk to each other, and you'll start to see what's really happening. Like I said, like a lot of people believe Hammond to be this almost like clean-cut, perfect guy in The Lost World, and a lot of people in the fandom think that. But I just fundamentally don't believe him. And I'm with Malcolm. I think that if you listen to Malcolm, does not believe Hammond. He doesn't. And that's why even at the end of the film, he uses Hammond's name as a way of coshing Ludlow over the head by saying, now you're John Hammond.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, Malcolm doesn't like Hammond. Grant doesn't like Hammond in Jurassic Park 3.
No, that was mean, by the way. That was pretty harsh, because
that's the thing. It's like, Hammond is a really cool character film-wise. Like, he's a great character. But I think there's this misconception of his character being this really lovable guy because he had this, to quote, arc in the first film, which he did in the first film. But if we go by the sequels, that's not how his character doesn't remain clean-cut afterwards. And some people would say that makes the sequels bad and they ruined Hammond from the first film.
No, because at the very end of that movie...
I've never heard anyone say that. Because
at the very end of that movie, even after he says, so have I, when he's talking about not endorsing his park, he's still got that moment where he's like turned around, like hearing the brachiosaurs, like, oh, I don't want to leave this island. And Grant has to, like, tell, hey, dude, get on the freaking helicopter.
Well, he's like, well, it's almost like grief, isn't it? He's angry at the beginning when he's like, so have I. Then he's in denial. That's why he turns around. He's like, no, this can't be happening. And then he's mourning and he's accepting it in the helicopter.
Well, don't even forget, like, earlier in the film, he's like, next time it'll be flawless. And it's not like Ellie Sattler's the one that made him have like some sort of epiphany, because later on in the movie, after she gives like that straight up speech to him about how he's wrong, he's like, oh, this is only a delay. All major theme parks have delays. And Malcolm has to be like,
yeah, actually, no, you're right. Yeah,
dude,
he doesn't
people
learn
are dying.
His lesson,
he doesn't really learn his lesson in Jurassic Park, except for the fact
and even when Grant is shooting at the raptors, he's like, Grant!
Yeah, he's like, just the park failed. That doesn't necessarily, like, that's why in Lost World, and you made a really good point that he is lying his ass off to Malcolm and everybody about, she came to me, I want you to know this. It's like, that dialogue later on between Malcolm and Sarah, she did not come to you, you called her. So, like, that is...
It's like Malcolm just straight up just instantly doesn't believe him.
As
so
he should. Like,
yeah, as he should. And then he goes to Sarah and he's like, "Why? When Hammond called you, why didn't you say something to me?" And she's like, "Because I knew you'd tie me to the bed." And that confirms that Hammond called her first. Like Hammond sought Sarah out because one, he needed Malcolm. And it's just, oh god, he's so conniving in that movie.
I love John Hammond, but I do see exactly what you're talking about because it is factually true. Like he is quite the manipulative showman. Like
he's very manipulative, but it's like, as Malcolm states in The Lost World, he says, like, you know, he's like, "Don't worry, Ian, I'm not making the same mistakes again." He's like, "No, you're making all new ones." And it's like, it's true. He has moved on from the idea of wanting to own a park, which is why he's willing to fight Ludlow on the idea of opening a theme park with dinosaurs in it. That much is true.
Right.
But that doesn't mean he's not the same manipulative guy who uses his checkbook to get them there and all this sort of stuff. Like, he's still flashing cash to get what he... just don't even get me started. I just think, Hammond completely misread by the majority of people in The Lost World. You
love the fact that it's a factory floor for experimentation. And I've talked to you about this off air. There is an older script of The Lost World Jurassic Park where they were actually going to explain Isla Sorna through basically... I don't have it in front of me. Sometimes these things are hard to come by, but essentially Peter Ludlow would find out Site B exists. It was not an open thing in InGen. This was a very hush-hush secret. And I believe through satellite images that someone had captured of Sorna, like overhead, he'd get these, I think, infrared pictures and show up in Hammond's bedroom and be like, "Hey, you've been hiding this from the company. Like, there's dinosaurs here. We could have been saving InGen, and there's this whole island that nobody knows about." I have no idea how the hell they were supposed to keep an island secret in the company. That's very questionable. But it's actually very interesting, too, and I think that it probably would have helped ease people into the idea of a second island in the Lost World, because that was incredibly, like, criticized when that film came out. Because it does come out of nowhere. But if you had this idea, if you force it, if you force the idea that, hey, this is not, like, there's a reason you know about it in the first Jurassic Park. It's a secret. Like, it was a secret in the Lost World, but not to the degree of what they're going for in this script. I just always found that fascinating. Like, that's a pretty big thing you're keeping from, like, higher ups in the company, don't you think?
I can see why that it's like it'd be more ideal if you wanted to have it more of a secret, but to me that sort of idea brings up too many questions that I'm like, I would want answers for. But if that was the actual route they went with the film, I'm sure they would have added more answers in there. Like, you know, who knew about this, and if they were cloning dinosaurs on this island, then that's not a small operation.
No, there's got to be a lot of people there.
It's not Hammond on his own, like doing it all himself. Like, you know, he's roided up, like carrying all the equipment up there and stuff like this. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger at the beginning of Commando
with the fucking log and the chainsaw. That's John Hammond with like some embryos and
yeah, exactly. But it's like, so other people would have been working with him. So then it brings up, well, who and how did he keep them quiet?
Maybe it's Dr. Wu.
Oh, yeah, Elliot Wu.
Elliot. Oh no, shut up. We don't talk about that here.
Yeah, the king of Site B, Elliot Wu. But no, but yeah, so it brings up lots of like questions and stuff, which I would want answers for. It's a nice idea. It's very Skull Island. And it's in
it is, isn't it? It's a little it's cool that it's secretive, but it's a little, it brings up so many logistical, like, just questions of like, how did this happen? How did this work? Which already with Site B in the Lost World, Hammond tells you everything in his bed, and you just kind of have to go with it, whether or not you like it or not, whatever. But it's like
exposition dump.
Yeah, it's a huge, like, oh, you didn't know about like this entire location. Well, we'll get in. It's just very odd that someone would go for a second thinking that you could fool an entire company, especially family members that are higher up, into not knowing about this.
Yeah, see, this is what's interesting, I think, about this idea is that it sounds to me like they read the book and then they weren't satisfied with
how Crichton did it.
How Crichton did it. So they were trying to do, like, you know, air quotes, a more a better idea, a more believable idea. But, you know, we didn't get that in the final film, and we're left with a lot of questions about how this would actually have played out on film if they'd have gone this route. So it leaves a lot to be desired into how it would have actually logistically worked. But I do like the idea. I just think that, yeah, like I said, there's so many puzzle pieces missing that I do prefer what we got, because I don't mind the exposition dump from Hammond. Because,
right, yeah.
Because it makes sense that InGen knows about it, and that's where they've been working. That's their factory floor, and they didn't tell the wider public about it because, you know, that's where all their big secrets are. Whereas Jurassic Park was like meant to be, that was where the public were going to go. And perhaps one would imagine if the park was a success, they would have revealed to the world that, yeah, we grow all these dinosaurs on this separate island, you know, but we have to bring them over here, and everything you see on Jurassic Park is done for show. Like, they would have done like almost a Hammond exposition dump to the public. I imagine that's what would happen, because people would be like, where are you doing all the experiments and
yeah,
stuff?
you know what, that probably would have gone way easier on the critics. They probably wouldn't have been so harsh on Lost World if it was like, I don't know, like what Jim Carrey does in Batman Forever, where he's like, this is my brain thing. But you know how he's on the news? Like, I'm being serious here. Like, when it's just Ian Malcolm in his bedroom, you know, that was something that Steven Spielberg and David Koepp were talking about for a long time. They're like, people are going to be bored of this. Like, when they blew up the island in the book, Isla Nublar, the implication was dinosaurs are on the mainland now. And they follow through with that in like the first half of the Lost World before going to the new island. But in Jurassic Park, the movie, they didn't blow up Nublar. So you don't technically have to create a new island unless, and this is throw out story stuff and just introduce audience expectations, you want to put new dinosaurs on the screen, and you want to have a new location so that it's not like the same thing over and over again. Like Star Wars 1, Tatooine. Star Wars 2, Hoth. You know, it's not like Tatooine. I'm going on it on a very like producer level, but you can see what I'm trying to say here, right?
Yeah, I do, but we also have to keep in mind that originally the Lost World, when it was being made, the idea was that Isla Nublar, all of the dinosaurs were killed on Nublar. So they were going with that idea. Instead of napalming Nublar, they had the idea that InGen went in and just killed all the dinosaurs and destroyed all the buildings and just basically wiped the slate clean. And then that's why the film shifts focus to Site B. But what you just said actually comes off the premise of what we got in the final edit, which is Nublar was actually more mysterious, because we actually don't really know what happened to the Nublar in the final edit of the film. And there's you know, obviously Jurassic Park 3 follows that up with Udesky's line where he's like, wait, there's 2 islands with dinosaurs on? Like, no one, people don't particularly know. Although, you know, there are some people out there who will stipulate that Jurassic Park 3, you know, totally ignores Nublar having dinosaurs on it, because, you know, that's why people say, like, that guy turns to Alan Grant and says, like, you know, how the government are going to handle that second island and stuff. And it's like, to me, it's like, well, the focus is Site B there. It's not Nublar, because people have been told that Nublar is clear of dinosaurs. We know that much. And we know that Ludlow has been meddling with
the media, especially with the narrative. Malcolm. Yeah.
Yes, and then obviously that was before the world knew 100% that dinosaurs were real. Ludlow's manipulation of the media was essentially him saying that Malcolm's a kook and none of it was real. And so that would then lead people to believe that, you know, I mean, once the T-Rex rampages through San Diego, there'd probably be a lot more questions. And I can imagine people asking, well, hang on, what about this Nublar? You know, and even Grant writes a book about it and stuff. But, you know, the film, as they stand in the final edits, they don't focus on Nublar whatsoever. So we're led to believe that island, you've got a big question mark on it. And that's how it is through the Lost World and Jurassic Park 3.
Until Jurassic World, right.
Yeah, until Jurassic World. But when the Lost World was being made, it was under the idea that Nublar was devoid of dinosaurs. I mean, there's even VHS cases that still state what was in that deleted scene in the blurb.
Well, there's even, you saw Sam's Journeyman video on that press kit they gave critics, right? Where they specifically say the dinosaurs were destroyed. And I have a feeling they said that I feel like they gave that to critics before they saw The Lost World, because none of that's in The Lost World. So like they're going to be going like,
yeah, unless they still had those deleted scenes were still in the film at that time.
I know that's way too close. That's way too close to the premiere for them to still be in the movie.
Oh, I guess.
And also,
but then again,
that's a bit dishonest, because if they're judging a film on scenes that are no longer going to be in the movie, that's not accurate. But yeah.
Or maybe it was the what do you call those screenings where they show people to get feedback?
Press screening. Oh, a test? You mean a test screening?
Test screening is probably where those deleted scenes were still in, when they were printing off all this marketing material that said X, Y, and Z. That's my theory. I don't know if that's true, but even then, there's still TV edits of the Lost World that reinsert those scenes, and I don't know if they've actually touched up the audio and the footage to match the rest of the film.
I think they have in some versions.
They have, yeah.
I know the Roland Timbo scene's great when it's actually in the edit of the film. I love it.
I can't stand that scene.
I know you don't like it, but I do. Any more? Look, that was desperately needed in that movie, because it actually goes with Roland Timbo's character arc.
Oh yeah, no, I don't mind that. It's the stupid garbage fight.
You don't like the fight? I like the fight. No. Fighting is cool, Jack.
It's too. I mean, it's too cliche for me. Those guys like picking on that waitress.
It is cliche.
And then Roland has to go over and he's like, "I'll fight you ragamuffins!" Like this. It's like they could have thought of something a little bit better for that, in my opinion. I'm kind of glad they did cut that scene, but I do love the dialogue between RJ and Roland in that scene. I think it's great. I just think that's all you really needed. You didn't need the fight.
Well, they have to introduce him as a badass, but you already do that in the final cut because of the way he talks to Ludlow. Like, "This is a game trail, Mr. Ludlow. Carnivores hunt on game trails." You know?
He just slaps Ludlow up the side of the face with words only.
Yeah.
But this whole Site B idea in the Lost World movie, so the idea they were making the film with was, the whole something has survived idea. And it's like, well, survived from what?
Well, originally it was.
Well, that's what it turned into.
Right, but originally it was because they destroyed the island. And before you go any further, I want to say this. Like, I've seen the first, I guess you would call it a script outline of The Lost World, which was way closer to the book. The only big difference from that would be, like, Dodson is absent. The villain's name is Dr. Judson, I believe, or just Judson. He is working for Biosyn. Biosyn is named. Richard Levine gets to the island through like a plane crash. They recycled that obviously for Jurassic Park 3. But they destroyed Nublar by like flame throwing the visitor center at the beginning of the film. And like they went back, like originally at the beginning of Lost World, this is a very long time ago, like 95. They were going to destroy that island at the beginning of the movie. Like the dinosaurs were all dead and everything like that. Yeah. And then you were going to learn, okay, Sorna. And hey, there was camouflaging Carnos in this version too. But the thing, look, this is the big thing. In the
sorry, I just want to interject. I've just got this image in my head of this film opening, and you've got these guys in the visit center, and you hear on the wall like, "Kill me!" And they turn around, and there's Robert Muldoon like stuck to the wall like something out of Aliens, and Hammond's there with a flamethrower, looking like Ripley, crying as he has to burn.
You shot my raptor, like LL Cool J.
Flamethrowers the entire visitor center to the ground. No, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
It's
you and I, when we talk, I get all these silly images in my head.
Yeah, well, there's Jurassic Park lends itself to some conversations like that because of what's happened in the past, but yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, like in the final cut of The Lost World, we don't learn what happened to Nublar. It's just kind of left up in the air. Now, logistically, Peter Ludlow would go to Isla Sorna because there's more dinosaurs on Isla Sorna. that's like, if you look at the dinosaurs he's catching in the movie, Pachycephalosaurus, Compsognathus, Stegosaurus, they're not on Nublar. So it makes, or they weren't supposed to be on Nublar. It makes sense that he would go to this island with more dinosaurs on it. But now,
yeah, and also he wants to. He just specifically wants to exploit that island because one, no one knows about it, so you might as well. You can do it under the cover of anyone who might be even snooping around Nublar for whatever reason. It's like no one knows about this island. So, and as you said, there's more dinosaurs on there, and he wants specific ones for his park. It's like, yeah, it makes total sense why you would go there.
I'll say one thing with the whole people thought that Nublar was destroyed in JP3 thing. While they were making JP3, they were going to go back to where they shot the visitor center.
Yeah.
So
it was originally set on Nublar, so
yeah, I mean, like, damn it, these movies. They make it very difficult to like weave everything into like factuality.
But that's what I also would just to play devil's advocate here. Like, if Nublar was destroyed, right?
Sure.
Between after Jurassic Park, and you watch these films in order, and you get to Jurassic World, right? There's still nothing in the original in Jurassic World or Fallen Kingdom that actually, because the thing that throws the spanner in the works is the T-Rex, right? The original T-Rex with the scars.
It's still alive,
but
right?
Yes, but there's nothing in the film that actually outrightly states 100% that that is the same T-Rex. So you can still play this game of like, well, if Nublar was destroyed, you cut to 20 years later and Jurassic World's open on there. And who's to say they didn't just rebuild on top of where they killed all the dinosaurs originally, and that T-Rex isn't the same one? Like, it still works. I completely don't understand where people can get really hung up on that. It's not like they did have a scene where they're like, this is 100% the T-Rex from the first film. Obviously, we all know it is.
It is,
but at the same time, it's like, if you don't want it to be, you can still have it that way. There's nothing in the film to actually 100% say that. And this is coming from the guy, the canon consultant, who, as you said, who wrote extensively about how that is the same T-Rex
right.
in one of the articles on the DPG. But I'm just saying that, like, if you want it to work, it still can work if you go in films only.
I think I'll speak for how I look at it, which is what I see most people look at it. It's very, the idea of Nublar being destroyed after Jurassic Park only works if you only like Lost World and ignore like everything else, and if you don't accept that there is no on-screen evidence apart from like a deleted scene that's not even in the movie. So it's, in my opinion, very silly to think that Isla Nublar was destroyed after, and very irresponsible of a company like InGen to do.
Well, yeah, you'd think if they were going to destroy Jurassic Park, you'd think they'd go destroy Sorna as well. Why would they just destroy one island?
It's so silly and stupid, and we could get into the hurricane catastrophe later, but like, yeah.
Oh, you and I have some things to say about that.
Yeah, yes, we do, and everything having to do with the lead.
Sorry, just to add one final point to that.
Okay.
The old script where the island is kept secret from Ludlow by Hammond. It's like, even in that script, Hammond is still manipulative.
That's
he hasn't told anyone about this island. Like, he's still hiding secrets, and it's like, how deep does that well go?
You know what, though, if they
will never know. If
they would have gone with that, that would have made him out to be a little bit more of a understanding, like a little bit more favorable, because he's hiding that so they don't exploit it. Like,
yeah, and I mean, I know there's some
he is
fans out there.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, and I know there's some fans out there who will say that, like, well, obviously, if you go by Simon Masrani's words in Jurassic World, that like Hammond's dying wish was for him to open the park. It's like, well, potentially that's a pretty likely scenario. I know, like, in the official canon, you know, he said to Simon that he hopes the dinosaurs live on in peace, and Simon's interpretation of that was to like, oh, let's carry on the park idea that Hammond going,
right,
or this, that, and the other, or also we're told. But like, if you go by the films only, you know, Hammond's manipulative ways in the Lost World, it's still what if he does want to just have his name, like have the park, like,
Well,
he doesn't endorse.
That
he doesn't endorse Jurassic Park, but he might endorse Jurassic World. Like,
I mean, it's a good conversation to have, because even though the Lost World ends on that whole like life will find a way with, you know, the Costa Rican government protecting that island and everything, it's still the fact that at early stages in the Lost World's development, Hammond was only doing that to put his name on something because Jurassic Park had failed. And in the final cut of the film, he is still like manipulating people to get to the island. Is it for a good cause? I guess you could technically say yes, it is, but there's probably going to be another agenda at play from Hammond. And if Hammond hadn't died in 1997, I could have very easily imagined a scenario where he's like, great, I got this island protected by the Costa Rican government and it's still under InGen's lease. So if we open this park on Nublar, our dinosaurs are actively being protected by the Costa Rican government. Right.
So we can still have our operations, but we can work with the government so they're safe, and then we can open this park.
Well, like, dude, even like post The Lost World, like the Jurassic Park 4 script by John Sayles, where Hammond's goal was to kill all the dinosaurs by breeding other dinosaurs that were like... I don't feel like they knew what to do with Hammond like after that, because it was
but the one thing to just underline and put in bold is Hammond isn't trustworthy. He's still manipulative. But you can't trust his character. And yes, he might have a quasi arc in the first film, but as we've just pointed out, that he's still manipulating afterwards. He still can't believe that he's lost his goal. Well, and even by the end of the film, it's still kind of questionable whether he's actually learnt his lesson. I know we just butted into the next point on another long tangent about Hammond, but I think this means a lot when it comes to Site B, like hiding the island, like keeping it away from the public and all this, that, and the other. Like it's
the secrecy of the company, and he is at the root of it. Well, even in Jurassic Park 1, now I just had this conversation with you and a few other fans the other day, but if you look at Jurassic Park, that lunch scene where they're talking about, like, you know, hey, do you like my island? Everything's great. Everything's going to be online in, like, you know, a few months. It's spared no expense. If you look at the charts behind him, it says, like, open date, like, 93, 94, 95, 96 to, like, how much revenue they're going to be getting. And it's like all slideshows. This is clearly something that has been like gone on for investors. They come there, they get wined and dined, and they look at what we planned on doing. This is how much money you're going to be making. And like with Joffrey getting killed at the beginning of the movie, that obviously set everything back because, and I'm going deep in this right here. Like, like it would appear to be that originally the plan was for Jurassic Park to open in 1993. Which is the current year that Jurassic Park takes place, because if you look at a calendar in Alan Grant's trailer at the beginning of the movie, it's 1993. So when Hammond says, like, we're going to open next year if the lawyers don't kill me first, I don't much care for lawyers, do you? That park worker death probably set him back like a year. And he's like scrounging to try and get as much support as he can.
Let's put it this way as well, that it's not a mistake that they're having dinner in that same room with Alan Grant and everyone else, because they're showing slides of like what the future could be. For
that's clearly made for investors. Like that's not made for like people to go and check stuff out.
Manipulate people for that, for getting behind that park. That's why the room is designed to be completely black as well. So the only thing you're focusing on are concept art for what could be profits going up. Jurassic Park Europe, all this sort of stuff. It's there's nothing else to see in that room other than the nice food, the Chilean sea bass in front of your face, and all these ideas around you for what could be. It's like that is the investor's room, 100%. But it's also a very interesting location for Grant and everyone else to be in there as Hammond is trying to win them over, because he's also looking at them as future investors of the park. And like he could have taken them to that restaurant that we see Lex and Tim in when they're eating all that food later on, but he doesn't. He chooses that room. And it's like, yeah, he's a very manipulative character.
Yeah.
Through and through, right till the end.
All right, we've talked about John Hammond enough, like for the last few.
Site H.
Site H. Yeah. Okay, so the Spinosaurus that was introduced in Jurassic Park 3. Now, I understand that on a conceptual level for Jurassic Park 3, you know, Site C, Isla Nublar, whatever they were going to do with this thing, the whole fact of the matter is when they were marketing Jurassic Park 3, there was all of these teasers and trailers and TV spots that was like an experiment abandoned. And like, you know, they're talking about how there was this weird thing on the islands that like you're not supposed to know about. And most people, if you even look at like Cinemassacre's Jurassic World review with like James and Mike, they're talking about the Indominus Rex, how it's like a genetic freak, and they're like, didn't they do that in the last movie, like the Jurassic Park 3? Because that's what most people thought the Spinosaurus, even in the final film, they're like, that wasn't on InGen's list, I wonder what else they were up to. It's not properly explained to the point to where you can easily point to it and go, ah, Spinosaurus, yes, we know X, Y, and Z about it. And the reason that's important to know all that stuff is because they show it kill this T-Rex in the movie and make a big point of it, going like, hey, this thing's bigger and badder and new. It's like, okay, where did it come from? And they don't really explain that. And simultaneously, you've got Jack Horner saying like, this thing could cause an extinction on the island. It's like,
yeah,
well, what's going on here? Now, look, Jurassic Park 3 was never finished. Like, for me to give it as much like pause as I can to just ease into
it. Had a troubled production.
It had an incredibly troubled production. Like, so if we acknowledge the fact that they had no idea what any of this was supposed to mean within the established canon, especially with the idea that they were going to go back to the visitor center from Nublar, so Nublar was never destroyed. Like, let's talk about the Spinosaurus in general and about
if they had gone to Nublar originally, that would make more sense in a way for the whole secret experiments, because had no one been to Nublar in so long,
well, it would make sense like for the way the whole island looks. Like it would,
well, yeah, exactly.
It would. That's another thing. This fan theory has come out that, and it's the only thing that makes sense, but that the Lost World takes place on a different side of the island than Jurassic Park 3. Now,
yeah.
Can you work on the canon for these movies? Can you just talk about that for a little bit, about how...
I literally have no thoughts on it. Like, to me, that's like, let's say we were... The only way we would ever tackle the environmental differences between The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 and the canon is if the filmmakers begged us to go and do it. Like, if they came to us and were like, look, no, they can't be bothered, because it's not... It's only an issue in cosmetics.
Well, it's only an issue for people like us as well, though. I mean, like if
I mean cosmetics as in if the environments actually did something that was for the plot.
No,
then
they don't.
Yes, you might need to explain it, but they don't.
Right.
They're just trees and bushes, and because they look different, it's like, okay. And plus, it's like, one might argue that who knows what Hammond did on Site B, because we already know they were messing with plants from the first film.
Yes.
So perhaps they imported some redwood trees from California.
I love that idea. I love that idea.
If we were to write something and it had to have an answer, that's probably what you're looking at. Like they were manipulating the environments to suit the dinosaurs.
I'm more talking about the idea of...
There's nothing like that in the canon at the moment.
The whole Alan Grant peering through the freaking destroyed window that in the script specifically says it's Ian Malcolm's car that the raptor head butted through.
Yeah.
And then there's even more stuff in the script that says like Eric Kirby found Dieter Stark's stun rod and he's making fun of the Lost World. He's like, yeah, I found this, but it ran out of batteries. And like tosses it aside or something. Like... I get that they wanted to make it look more like Nublar. I get that. But even as a kid, when I was watching the movie and I said, that's totally a reference to Lost World when Alan Grant just put his head through the thing. Like, why? Wait, if this is the worker village, why is it completely different? Now, I know that makes no sense. And that in the final film, we have to just say, that's a totally different building. That's the Embryonics Administration. They're on a
we don't have to say that. The film says that. That's the thing. It's like we don't have to make up that it's a different location, even though it's meant to be the same. It is 100% a different location.
We don't have to make up that it's a different location.
No, because it straight up says it above the door. It says it's the Embryonics Administration.
It does. Jack,
so it is a completely different location. And
that scene,
I never ever got that Grant looking through the window of that truck was meant to be looked at it as a homage, or even like meant to be that same truck, until I got on the internet and people were saying that, and I was like, really? Like, oh my god! Like,
well, we were right. It's in the script. Like, that's just...
yeah, but it was in the script, and that script would have been, that scene is set at the worker village, right? In the original script,
I don't
like, it's actually meant to be the same location, whereas in the final film, it's not.
They specifically say Grant peers through the destroyed car window. Think back to the Lost World. Now, they
when it says exterior,
it might say embryonics administration or lab or something like that. But that script went through hell and back.
If it says that's fucked. But sorry, if it says that, then that's wrong. But yeah, if it actually is meant to be the worker village, then fair enough. But in the final film, it's a completely different location.
Well, it has to be. Like, it has to be a different location. And it looks like a completely different location, even though they just tore down the worker village and built the embryonics administration around it.
Getting that confused with the location from the Lost World because Grant looks through a window would be like the equivalent of the T-Rex eye looking at Eddie Carr through the window when he's trying to save the trailer and getting it confused that that's the T-Rex paddock on Isla Nublar.
You get it as like a callback then, more so.
It's just a callback, and even then it's a very weak callback because there's multiple windows broken.
I can't. I was sitting here watching it and I'm like, when they filmed that, the intent was that it was the same
the intent
car.
Was there, yeah.
And it's just so stupid. Like, it's so silly, and like, no, it's like it's okay, we could go on and talk about that forever. But look, Isla Sorna is an island with tons of different like mysteries and stuff that's never been fully explained. There's so much of this island that's never been explained. Whether we're talking about like male dinosaurs and whether or not InGen cloned them, how they came about, if they're first generation, molting, what have you. If you talk about just how the island was originally supposed to be shown off in these films through like John Hammond's secrecy and like all these other scripts that were abandoned. At one point in time, Jurassic Park 3 wasn't supposed to be Isla Sorna. Like, there is so much with this island that is just, it's not explored. And I think the reason it's not explored is because it is technically a mess. Like, if you look at this from a filmmaker's perspective,
I'd say it's half-half. It's half a mess and also half designed to be mysterious, to get your mind fired up. I mean, so Jurassic Park 3 obviously is had a messy production, and in my personal opinion is the weakest of the films. But I do love the idea, clearly, with what we wrote on the viral marketing websites. Like, I love the idea of experiments happening on Sorna behind everyone's backs, like everyone's backs. Like, even if Hammond was alive still, it's like,
I like that too. Yeah.
But I don't think the film goes out of its way to state clearly enough what was actually happening and why. Like, the Spinosaurus we know is not on the list, but according to the script and also the Jurassic Park 3 junior novelization,
the
Pteranodons are specifically one of the other creatures, which one doesn't make sense because the Pteranodons, let's just say, the species was already on InGen's list, but this specific group of Pteranodons, whether they would have an actual different name, I mean, the Pteranodons aren't named drop in Jurassic Park 3, are they?
No, they just say the bird cage. But by the way, you bringing that up in that novelization, I'm looking for it now. Where the hell is it? They specifically... I had a copy
of it next to me like a few days ago, like where I'm sitting at my computer, but I actually put it away. So I'm like, oh, damn.
They specifically say that the Pteranodons in that movie are a
genetic monster. They're like, genetically designed to be monsters rather than... Or like, maybe not designed, but they are genetic.
There's some
freaks.
Sort of they're an experimental freak that went wrong. They're not real like there's some.
Well, they're not. Yeah, they're not dinosaurs. I know you'd get comments under this like they're not dinosaurs anyway. But
you know what I mean. Like,
they're genetically engineered theme park flying reptiles. Nothing more, nothing less.
Let me look for this quote. I'm skimming through the junior novelization right now. Let me find it.
It's right after the things revealed. To Eric, I think, on the bridge.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
But even in the behind the scenes footage, I've actually got a clip from behind the scenes on my computer where Joe Johnston says it as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
the Pteranodon is one of the things that Hammond's company was growing without telling anyone.
Yeah, well, that goes with this right here, too, because I've just found it's on page 74. The cone-shaped orange and black striped crest jutting from the back of the gray-winged reptile's skull clearly marked it as a pteranodon. But according to paleontologists, pteranodons weren't supposed to have wingspans this large. This creature was a genetically engineered giant. The way its weight made the bridge shift and sway also made Eric think that it was a lot heavier than the 50 to 80 pounds a pteranodon was supposed to weigh. That meant it could be stronger than the pteranodons who sailed the sky 65 million years ago. A true pteranodon couldn't lift a boy his size. But this creature... And then it goes on to like pick him up and stuff like that. So, like,
and I think there's a line a few sentences down from that, if my memory's right, where they specifically say it's not on the list, like the word list mentioned somewhere.
Oh, it might be in the book. I know it's in like an older. It was all over that website they made for JP3 too as well.
Just for a side note, that's also the novelization also confirms that the male T-Rex that attacks the Spinosaurus is a fully grown one. Which goes completely against the whole idea that T-Rex is a sub-adult or whatever fans have in their head, and leans credence to my theory that that's the bull T-Rex.
It's not the bull T-Rex. But the whole poster that they released with Jurassic Park 3's DVD to like try and soften the backlash of the T-Rex dying in that movie was like, oh, it was just a little T-Rex. Like, it's like,
yeah, no, that's not what the script says. That's not what the junior novelization says, and it's not what the film says. If you actually look at that T-Rex size,
the animatronic is just it's the animatronic for the bull.
No, but even the CGI,
oh yeah, it's massive. I agree with
T-Rex.
you. Yeah, it's
But anyway, yeah. So this whole like experimental side to Site B is something I really love, and I just kind of wish, you know, I know there's all the extra stuff in the expanded universe that we've written and stuff, but I do wish there was something more in the films that sort of backed that up.
But what do you want? Do you want another movie that just is another thing like JP3 where they're walking through like these embryonic administrations and you don't know what anything means? It's just like all these mysteries. It's like, well, what the hell? This isn't Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was never like this. They were supposed to explain everything to us about what they were doing, and then the second movie introduced this idea of secrets. For you to keep introducing secrets and stuff like that, never telling us what's going on, that's not cool. That's just lazy and stupid. And it's like that's why I'm very hesitant to even look at this.
Well, one person could argue that the first film has secrets in it.
It does, but I'm talking about.
But the thing is, like, there was a point I was about to get to, but I completely forgot now. Completely forgot my point. What was it? You said something then. You said something about the.
I said, do you want to know?
Oh no, yeah, that's it. If I was to make a Jurassic Park film, right, about the experiments on Sorna, it wouldn't be about someone going to the island and discovering more secrets. It would be about the experiments taking place.
So you would explain it.
Yes, but it would actually have a story that happens there. It wouldn't just be like some frivolous, let's randomly make some dinosaurs and oops, they've escaped and gone wrong.
Yeah.
There would actually be a more weighty narrative purpose to it. Obviously, I have loads of ideas about how that would actually play out, but I'm not going to go into it because you never know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe
right. Look, I like what you were saying because I know that there are people that love that 10 seconds when they're walking into the embryonics administration and the music's like, and like, you get the raptor head behind the glass and everything. There are people that defend Jurassic Park 3 to the end of time and love that 10 seconds. But I'm telling you right now,
I love the whole, and Embryonics Administration is actually my favorite location on Site B.
Okay,
but I just don't like the raptor behind the tank. I think.
Well, yeah, I think that's super silly.
Yeah, the idea of a raptor knowing what it looks like from the opposite side of the tank, so it has to tilt its head in a certain way.
Knowing that the formaldehyde inside of it like preserves fetuses, and then pretend.
Yeah, I know it's an utterly ridiculous premise for a raptor.
And not only for the raptor, for Amanda Kirby to fall for it. What does she really think that someone cut a raptor's head off and put it in the tank? Why would they do that?
All they had to do was have her looking at the tanks, and then she looks between the tanks, and there's an eye looking at her from between the tanks.
Oh, that would have been scary. Yeah, that's cool.
Like the trees in the first film when Muldoon's getting eaten and you see the snake.
Yeah,
that sort of shot, but between the tanks, and then she's like, and then it like turns and tries to get her.
Could you
that
imagine
would make
like
more
walking
sense.
through the tanks and you're looking at like fetuses and you just see this eye staring at you like in between.
Yeah, you have the
tanks.
shot like panning, like literally going on a tracking pan across all the fetuses, and then there's just an eye in between them. Like that would have been so much better. But I love the Embryotics Administration. I do wish that like they'd spent more time there.
They were originally supposed to spend the night there and fend off the raptors from entering the building, but they discarded that.
That's exactly what I would have loved, is to have been in that building more. And then Grant could have found documents or something, and he's like, hang on, this is like something to do with the experiment.
Hang on.
But like, yeah, if I had all the money in the world, I would make a film about what happened there and why it happened.
I think you need that if you're ever going to touch on Site B in a movie again, like actually go there, because as it stands, it's just a free-for-all of randomness. You could come in and just say, so they bred an Ouranosaurus, and here it is. You didn't know it because it wasn't on InGen's list. Whoop-de-doo.
Well, that's exactly what we did on the DPG, but
you tried to explain like what was going on.
Well, we didn't know. We didn't technically explain anything about what was specifically going on.
You gave a viewpoint from a biased source.
No, it was the reason we were bringing up the Site B stuff on the DPG stuff. The main reason for that was actually to explain how these dinosaurs completely lost any rights, any lawful legal rights to their safety.
Right.
Like,
well, that played in with the plot of the actual films. I get that.
Fallen Kingdom, which is funny enough the film that we were marketing. And it's like so using the illegal cloning aspect was the perfect way of going, hey, these people have been manipulating with these dinosaurs all this time. You know, these dinosaurs are they've been messed with, they've been toyed with, they need to be protected because humans, they come in and they mess with dinosaurs. They've done it there, here and here. And one of those moments was in 1999, and with the whole Sorna illegal experiments. But it wasn't there to actually explain exactly why they were being made. There's two very vague reasons that they give. One is for early R&D for the for the new Jurassic Park project, which would become Jurassic World, and the other one is Amalga testing. There's two titles for what was going on there. So it's like it's still we were being deliberately vague because we knew we couldn't flat out answer it without knowing where they want to take the next film.
Right.
Essentially,
right.
Let's just say let's leave it there. You know, because that's the thing. These films are constantly going, so it's like you don't want to just flat out answer something straight away, only for the next film to completely contradict you,
which is what used to happen all the time when the Jurassic Park trilogy was going on, because they had all these sequels to the first movie in comic book or video game form, and then all of that gets tossed out for like Lost World, and the same thing happened after that with Trespasser and stuff. But like, what about those velociraptors? Brand new types of raptors in that movie, which are like the intelligence of these animals and the way they behave is like completely different. Like, people talk about how smart Owen Grady's raptors are. Like we just said with this raptor in Jurassic Park 3 that like knew to hide behind a formaldehyde tank and like knew like what.
Well, that's the aside from the raptor in the dream, which talks, that's in someone's subconscious technically. The raptor behind the glass is the #1 most ridiculously intelligent thing I've seen a raptor do.
Well, hold on. I'm going to challenge that. What about perfectly snapping a man's neck? How does it know to do that?
Well, how does the Spinosaurus know how to do that to the T-Rex? There's 2 neck snaps in that film.
That's true.
It's not. They can't just be leveled at the raptors here. I think this okay, you can look at it this way. How does a lion know to suffocate its prey before eating it? Why do they do that? Why don't they just start eating? Why do they want their prey?
It's a bit of
because they don't want it to fight back. Right. They don't want it to. But this, that, and the other. If the raptors are intelligent, they'll know to kill something they're doing it as a show of power. They're like, okay, you messed up. We've got you trapped here. We're going to kill this guy in front of you.
First, they stab his spine, right? So the raptors have some sort of semblance of human anatomy. They know that they can stop this man by poking him in the back. Like they have some idea of how human skeletal systems work.
Spinal surgeons.
Yes, they have some idea of how to immobilize a human being, like a chiropractor. And then, like, this is the thing. These animals, we don't know anything about them. Like, the Jurassic Park 3 velociraptors are completely different to the Lost World velociraptors on, I guess, a completely different side of the island, because the only thing that makes sense, if you watch that movie and how these animals behave at intelligence levels that are so beyond, like, anything we've ever seen before or since, with, like, you know, it's a raptor. Why not kill the Udesky by biting him in the face? It perfectly, like, it picks his head up, and then it does this weird, like, whiplash thing that snaps its neck like Jason. Like, how does it know to do that? And I'm just saying here, these animals have never been explored or, like, talked about at all. They're just, here's our new raptor we designed.
Well, I have some free things to say about this, right? About these raptors, because I get asked about these raptors all the time.
As you should.
I get like private messages about these raptors from fans all the time, and I have talked to Colin. I'll be honest, I've mentioned to Colin all the time about how much fans love these raptors, and I know there's people on Twitter and stuff who constantly message Colin and the producers about, like, you know, don't forget the JP3 raptors, and it's like, okay, we all know these raptors mean a lot to the fans, right? But I have 3 things to say about them. One, I hate to say this so bluntly, but originally they're retcons.
Yeah,
they're retcons of the original raptor. They state it in the making of commentary. We don't see any. They're meant to be a complete retcon of the original raptors that we saw in the first 2 movies, because they wanted to be, quote unquote, more scientifically accurate to what raptors actually look like. Well, they didn't care about establishing canon. They didn't care about any of that. They retconned it, and that's why Alan Grant sees one in his dream, and they don't care to explain how he sees it like that. No, they're meant to be the same raptors we saw in the previous 2 movies.
Right.
So that's point number 1, and there's no way of getting around that. That was the intention, and arguably still is the intention for the makers of Jurassic Park 3, right?
Yeah.
2, we specifically didn't want to talk about those raptors anywhere in the marketing material and the canon consultant area that we were working on, because I'll be honest, we're still trying to work out what we can probably do. It's like, what these raptors, because they're retcon, it's like, okay, how do we? Okay, it's so messy. It's like, even if you begin to try and answer it, we're worried we're just going to make things worse.
Yeah, just take your time when doing it. I get the concerns, and I get that
we've got like loads of ideas, but at the same time, it's like, okay, all right, 3. But that's, I'm talking about we as a collective. Like, I'm speaking from as much as I know from the studio point of view and all this, that, and the other. Like, as far as I know, the JP3 Raptors for the studio and the Chaos Theorem guys is still up in the air. Like, we just don't know where the chips are going to land yet. And and I'll be honest, I don't know if there's anything planned for the future with them. I have no idea. Like, as far as we know, what we know about the JP3 Raptors is exactly the same as it stood in 2001. Like, like nothing's changed for them at this time. That's basically what
and
I was just gonna say, my third point is my personal. Now, this isn't like an endorsement for canon or anything, but my personal idea for the Raptors is they're also not on InGen's list.
Wait, so they're not Velociraptors?
Well, no, not that they're not Velociraptors. They're like the Pteranodons. You know how those Pteranodons on the list, those Pteranodons aren't.
I get what you're saying.
Same for those Raptors. And that also, and you're going to hate hearing this, but that's why I look at Jurassic Park 3 and I look at the title of the movie. Those 3 claw marks represent the Spinosaurus, the Raptors, and the Pteranodons, because they're the 3 antagonistic dinosaurs that the characters meet in the film. And those 3 claw marks represent those 3 that aren't on InGen's list. That's my personal preference at this time. Might change in the future, who knows? But like, yeah, I get so many questions about those raptors, and it's like I can't even begin to like wrap my head around it. And I know like there's fan theories about like Nublaris and Sornaris.
I think that's just people trying to make sense of it themselves, because
exactly. And I personally, I don't like those names. I think they're really
I never liked them either, but they're just they're trying. I mean, they don't have much to work with here. I don't want
to take that away from any fans who want to use those names and stuff. But like to me, it's like I mean, there's a video I made on my old YouTube channel called The Feathers Debate, where it was shortly after Colin had just tweeted. This was before we were on board. This was.
Is that where you were
Colin
wearing the Alan Grant hat?
Yeah, my fedora. Oh, no, my Stetson. It's not a fedora, it's a Stetson cowboy hat. Love that thing. What was I saying? Oh yeah, and I made a video called The Feathers Debate. This was Colin had just announced no feathers on Twitter. And everyone was up in arms, like, oh my god, like all the paleontologists were crying and all the fans all the fans like myself were saying, like, yes, like go keep the dinosaurs as they are. But in that video, I stipulate that, like, if you're going to introduce feathers, you need new dinosaurs. You can't just sling feathers onto established dinosaurs, because we've already had that in Jurassic Park 3, and it didn't work because they tried to retcon them, and it was just like, what? It was just too confusing. However, in that video, I state that my personal preference is that they're a different group of raptors because their eyes are different. And it makes sense that they're a genetically different group. However, if we're going to circle back to our original starting point, what we were talking about with Site B, is if those raptors are a retcon, are they a retcon in such a way that the raptors that we know, like the tiger-striped ones, they breed, and then those ones that come out start to look more like they regress?
I don't know. I know that's been something people have talked about, and that they've evolved or something, but it's...
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, the whole JP3 marketing was like, time to evolve or die.
Evolve or die, yeah.
So it's like, is that what they were talking about? The raptors were evolving, but it's not like the ones that we know shifted and changed. It's like the ones that were birthed from eggs from those raptors changed. It just would have been nice to have seen, like,
an explanation.
Some sort of answer. Yeah, but obviously, as we said, the real life explanation is their retcons.
You know how you could fix something in JP3? Like, I know it makes no sense, like how Alan Grant sees a quilled male raptor when he's dreaming. You could write something in the canon of, like, and then Alan Grant was passed a satellite image of a male velociraptor with quills on its head in 2000 or something, just so at least it would make sense. Like in the movie.
Yeah, I always make a joke about, like, Alan Grant sees into the future, like he's a fortune teller,
like Chief Brody's wife in Jaws 4.
Yeah, because he in Jurassic Park, he accurately predicts the raptors hunt from the side, and the T-Rex has his vision's based on movement. Like, he completely 100% predicts that.
How do you tell that from bones?
Raptors. He talks about raptors having great vocalization and all this sort of stuff, and then he accurately predicts exactly what they're going to look like on Site B before he even gets there. Like, he's just a magician. He just can tell exactly what's going to happen in the future. It's just, you'd think he would have known he was going to be kidnapped by the Kirby's, you know?
Yeah, well, okay. You know, we're going to bring something else up here. San Juan.
Oh, God.
What say you about San Juan?
Okay, so we were doing a commentary on Jurassic Park 3 for Sam's the Journeyman YouTube channel, and because we're talking over Discord, you know, and I can't have the film on loud, so I've got the subtitles on, and as they're approaching Isla Sorna, you see Udensky and Nash in the cockpit, and they're getting a call from someone saying, "This is San Juan approach to aircraft," or whatever, and it says, like, you know, you need to turn around. And I looked at it, I was like, San Juan, where is that? So I did a quick Google, and San Juan is on the complete opposite. It's in the Atlantic Ocean, or is it in the Caribbean? I need to look this up again.
It's in Puerto Rico. It's San Juan, Puerto Rico, which is not, like, I looked up, like, I'm looking for San Juan, Costa Rica. It's not a thing.
Well, just like, is there a town called San Juan?
There's a lot. Like, San Juan's a popular name, but, like, for an actual area in Costa Rica, like, I saw some maps that tried to say that it was San Juan, Costa Rica, and then I lined it up with Google Maps, and it was San Juan, Puerto Rico. Like, it's a major mistake, but I don't understand. Is that like a remnant of Site C? Is that like, or is that just something like, did they not know? Were they trying to say San Jose? That
Well,
would
the
make
thing
sense.
was, like, is it in the script as well, right? San
Yeah,
Juan.
it's in the script. Yes.
So it's not like, see, at first I thought it was a mistake in the subtitles. I thought it said San Jose. And the guy over the thing was like, "Oh, this is San Jose approach," and like the person writing the subtitles just didn't hear right and just wrote San Juan. But it's in the script, so it's not a mistake from that.
Right. It's hardwired into the film, like on a structure.
Like, I don't. Yeah. I honestly have no answer for it. I have no idea.
I don't
how
know
they made such a colossal mistake, and it made it into the final film even after all the script changes and stuff. You think someone would have picked up on it. And just on a quick side note, there's a little nod to that San Juan line in the next episode of Dino Defense.
Oh, is there? Okay, cool.
It doesn't say San Juan, but there's a bit where someone says like that something's on approach, and they're like, "This is blah 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 to blah 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 approach." Like that inspired me for some dialogue.
Oh God! Well, look, like the whole idea of them not knowing where to put Isla Sorna, or if they just weren't paying attention to like what's official canon and what isn't. I saw a recent article that's up on Jurassic Park 3 where the writers of the film actually talked about how much humor and comedy that they injected into that script, and most of it was cut out or unused, even though Jurassic Park 3 as it stands is very comedic. It's very silly. I think it's personally probably the most family-driven movie out of the entire series. Actually, I don't even think I would have to personally say that. Kid survives on Isla Sorna for 8 weeks alone. I mean, it's very child-centric, and I think that maybe the San Juan thing maybe is just a joke. Like maybe, or I mean, I'm stretching here. I'm trying to make sense of it myself.
I was going to say, like, I didn't even get the joke. If it is a joke,
I don't get a lot of the jokes in Jurassic Park 3, but like, it's just like, I don't know, but it's questionable. There's so much stuff with Site B that I fundamentally don't understand. Like, and I feel like,
well, I mean, right now, where we've left,
that's what I'm about to say is like, they should go back and explain it somehow in a story. Now, I don't know if we have to go there, but just it's for the sake of helping Jurassic Park 3 fit in better with everything, and for the sake of just explaining, the discrepancies between that film and The Lost World. I understand that the wider story has moved on from just this secret island that we never knew about from the first Jurassic Park. Like, Jurassic Park's story was dinosaurs, Alan Grant's character arc, Isla Nublar cloning. Like, Lost World and JP3 took that to a whole other island with like dinosaurs that were wild and running around everywhere, and there wasn't really any specific genetic explanation given in the films for anything. That's why we're sitting here talking about male dinosaurs and where they came from as far as a manufacturing place or whether they're first generation born that way. That's why we're talking about where the Spinosaurus came from. That's why we're talking about where the pteranodons that look completely different are from. That's why we're talking about like these raptors and how overtly intelligent there's no explanation for any of this. And I just think that eventually there should be, but it should be done right and not just thrown at the screen like it was for Jurassic Park 3, to where, and admittedly, this isn't like a knock on that movie. It's just that production was so obscenely troubled. Again, that wasn't even supposed to be Isla Sorna, like initially. Yeah, so we're like, this conversation about like all the mysteries of that island, most of them have to do with the fact that that third movie's production was so compromised that the lore of everything that we know as Jurassic Park is up in the air. I mean, you talked about Stan Winston's crew saying that, the explanation for the new Raptors is just, we retconned them. That's.
I mean, I suppose they don't say it as bluntly as that from what I remember. I need to listen to that commentary again soon, but they do talk about how they redesigned the Raptors and all that sort of stuff. Not at any point do they try and explain, if they're a different breed or anything. They talk about them as if they are the exact same ones from the first two films, just evolved.
Right. And I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff we could talk about. I mean, you wrote a lot of stuff about like the DPG dinosaur listing where, these are all animals on InGen's list, but there's like a percentage of how much DNA they have, so on and so forth.
And it's like, they know what dinosaurs they've got. They might have low percentage of DNA and they might have a name given to that, but it's like they grew it. You know, in order to know what dinosaur you've got DNA wise, you've got to be able to grow them. I think they even say that in the first book.
Well, it's even like I believe Apatosaurus is on InGen's list, but the DNA is not. They don't have enough of the DNA that's like 100%.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be people out there who might point out that Apatosaurus was on Site B because in the Lost
bones in the worker village
magazine, the bones that the characters walk through leading up to the worker village, they're meant to be the bones of Apatosaurus. But at the same time, the only piece of information on that is in a souvenir magazine in a little tiny blurb, and it's like their bones on a screen. It could be anything, and then even then, it's like they could be Apatosauruses because they had the DNA.
Yeah, you said that they had to clone them before they know what it is.
Yeah,
so yeah,
it's all completely up in the air. Exactly what went down, but at the same time, there is some stuff that's sort of been set in stone. You know, and it's all thinking about it as logically as possible because.
Which is difficult to do with these movies because these movies...
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They're not very logical.
They're not, and I know that people like to think that they are, but like the realism of any of these movies, from the first film all the way through to Battle at Big Rock, like we're talking very different reality. Like Eddie Carr walking through the accordion of the trailer when he's trying to save Sarah, Nick, and Ian makes no sense at all. That's a piece of fabric. That thing would be wrapped around and like
it'd be twisted up.
Yeah, you couldn't see through that, let alone walk through it. You're talking about having a bed sheet in front of your face, like to where you like. And a lot of people don't think about this stuff because they don't know it. But like even Roland Tembo, like there's that part in the movie where he pulls his gun up to shoot the doe tyrannosaur, and he pulls the trigger and nothing goes off. It's like the primers would have still gone off in the gun if Nick Van Owen stripped the cartridges. So it's I know we're being super like integral to, but this is just to show that like these movies are difficult to point out like logistics when they're not realistic. Like
yeah, well, not to downplay these movies in any way.
No, it's just
they've
within
got a
their universe. Yeah,
and they will jump through hoops and miss things out and do smoke and mirrors to tell you that story essentially.
Yeah. And some of the times that makes for really thrilling scenes. With Isla Sorna, I do hope that they just attempt to just...
Well, what do you... I'll ask you this because I can't obviously talk about the future too much because really I don't know and I don't want to like say something I probably shouldn't. And they're like, hey, why did you say it? But I'll say so I'll ask you, like, what do you think about Isla Sorna's current status in the canon then, after everything we know?
After everything you wrote, or after like in general?
Well, two answers. After everything we wrote, and also if you were to go by the films only.
Okay, if I were to go by the films only, it is I have no idea what to even think, because Jurassic Park 3 introduces all of these new concepts without any explanations. And because I care so deeply about this franchise, I want an answer. And like you said, what's presented in the movie directly contradicts what came before, whether it be Alan Grant seeing a quilled raptor on an airplane, or whether it be the whole worker village / embryonics administration thing, or just the different layout of the island and the Spinosaurus. Like, none of this stuff is ever given on screen in the films. So I would love a future story, whether it be a novel, a comic book, maybe a video game, or a short film that just sat down and just explained it without being an exposition dump of just nonsense, in a way that just made Jurassic Park 3 believable to take place in this.
But Jurassic Park 3 aside, and just Isla Sorna, like where it's that island stands in terms of the canon, like after Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom.
After what you've written? Or after...
No, films only.
Yeah, like, if we only go by Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World has all of the different dinosaur renders on the computer screens of the, or not computer screens, but like the Innovation Center displays have like the green male T-Rex, the feather-quilled Velociraptor, the Spinosaurus is on there too. So they know about these dinosaurs in the 2015 film. Whether they've gone there and pillaged them or killed them all, or, you know, whether they just researched them, they're still in canon. And if you go to Fallen Kingdom, where Eli Mills says, before the island Sorna, Jurassic Park, Hammond and Lockwood built a, you know, lab here. And then you also talk about the lady on the BBC News who says an extinction level event will kill off the last living dinosaurs on the planet, which are on Isla Nublar. I mean, if we go by Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World, the theme park alone knows that what these dinosaurs are, because you've got these different male variations within their science center. And if you go by Fallen Kingdom, where they specifically say, yes, Isla Sorna, they say that verbally in the film, that would lead me to believe, well, I guess it's a ransacked island, or it's an island that everybody knows about, but we just won't go to it, and it could have been pillaged. It could have been like all the dinosaurs rounded up and thrown in the park. It would certainly seem that way from Jurassic World, because you've got
Do you think Isla Sorna is in the same sort of status as Isla Nublar was by the end of Jurassic Park 3? Because there's 2 films since, like, if you go by the first 3 films, you've had 2 films that didn't focus on Nublar, but focused on Sorna, and now we're 2 films after that, and we've been on Nublar, but we haven't been to Sorna. So sort of Sorna is now in the place of where Nublar was at the end of Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah,
right.
I guess, you know what? That's very factual, actually, because I remember after Jurassic Park 3 came out, everybody was like, get Malcolm back. We don't want to see Grant again, and we don't want to be on Sorna anymore. We want to go back to Nublar, because we don't know anything about Nublar, and the way that island was handled in the film canon was very questionable. We didn't know anything about Isla Nublar except for deleted scenes and like concepts. So yeah, I guess Sorna is in the same place today that Nublar was in 2001.
Yeah,
I never looked at it like
just
that.
To add another little point to what you were saying, like to me in Jurassic World, obviously it's a lot of show and not well, I say not enough tell, but at the same time it's like, how much exposition do you really want about all this stuff? Like to me, the raptors themselves in Jurassic World, and even the Indominus, lend credence to the raptors that we saw on Site B being pillaged. Not only the quills on the Indominus, but also things like the ridges on top of the head of Charlie.
Oh yeah, some of the
Delta,
raptors,
like their design,
definitely have some of that.
The raptors' designs look
stuff.
like they've been genetically engineered with the intention of
replicating that look. Yeah,
replicating that look, or maybe they didn't want to replicate that look. That was just how it came to be. But obviously outside of the in-universe, talking about the behind the scenes of the actual filmmaking, the filmmakers definitely looked at the designs of the Jurassic Park 3 dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, totally.
Let's introduce this into the raptors, and it's like, because that would make sense. And obviously, if you go into like, I know you don't like the book, but if you go into like the expanded media, like the evolution of Claire and stuff, they talk about how they're shipping dinosaurs from Sorna over.
Well, they also talk about how poaching being on Isla Sorna a lot in that book.
Yeah, and they bring the first raptor from Sorna back to Nublar for the first time and all this sort of stuff. It's like, so yeah, I was just interested to hear your thoughts on like the status of Site B now, just films only, because like I said, we talk about Site B enough on the external websites that can give you lots of answers as to sort of what was kind of happening. But yeah, it's just, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on where Sorna is now.
It does feel like, I never looked at it the way that where Nublar was post JP3 is. I guess that's probably where we are with Sorna now. But there is stuff in Jurassic World particularly that you visually see, like the green male T-Rex on screen. You see the quilled raptors and the name Spinosaurus, even the Spinosaurus skeleton that the T-Rex like breaks through. That island's legacy is within the world. It's just, for me, looking at how that island was.
Sorry, I was just even down to like things like the bloomin' aviary.
The aviary
being designed similar, and the eggs. Where Claire is talking to the investors, and we get that shot of the thing opening with the eggs in it. Barcode. That if you look at the incubators for the eggs, they're exactly the same sort of design as what we saw in the Embryotics Administration on Sorna. So that design carries over as well. Sorry, just a point in there.
Yeah, it's just, at this point in time, the entire idea of Isla Sorna itself and all the the questions that I have for it, and that a lot of other people have for it, I hope would someday get answered. Now, I don't know how you would even begin to tackle most of this stuff, but hopefully it wouldn't be in a way where people just get stranded on that island and then they just come across, what's this, what's this, what this, and never give an answer for it. Because I feel like when Jurassic Park 3 did that, it became something else, and it became something that just made me scratch my head for 20 years. So
yeah, I think had Jurassic Park 3 not had a troubled production, the film would have been much cooler, and we would have had a start, middle, which like set up the hang on, things have been going on behind the scenes, and the ending would have actually have answered some of that stuff.
Yeah,
like had they
well,
not,
I think it wouldn't have contradicted itself so much. And at the end of the day, that's my issue with Site B, is like, if we ever do return to this area, can I at least have a version of it? Because, you know, like, what if they make another Site B story and everything completely contradicts what was going on in Jurassic Park 3? Like, that's
what, you mean they go there and there's just snowy mountains everywhere? Yeah,
like that's effectively what happened in 2001. I mean, like, so
they go there and instead of redwoods or the Nublar look, there's just cactuses everywhere.
There's cactuses everywhere, and there's like woolly mammoths. It's like, that wasn't on InGen's list. What else? It's like, no, you have to explain. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, our market research says people love mammoths. Put them in the movie. It's like, that's not that's not how this works.
Anyway,
yeah, but that's pretty much all there is to talk about, I think, Jack. That's an Isla Sorna conversation that is yet to be complete. We might come back here in the future if something ever happens on that island, or anything else goes down that would reveal any information. I do appreciate you coming on to talk about this, because Sorna is fun to talk about, but it's also like, there is no answer, so you can just kind of go on about it forever.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the opportunities when we did the DPG website and even the Masrani Global stuff. Is like, there is so much we could use from Site B to like help build this world up. And it was also, just to be frank, it's like, it's one of those things where like the studio they're focused on these new movies at the moment and not focused on JP3. It was like a free, well, yeah, answering things from JP3. So it's like, so when we approached them and said, can we use this as a way of helping build the world of these films are set in, they were like, yeah, go for it. And we're like, whoa. So then, you know, that's why writing things, one of my personal favorite things is like Hoskins capturing the pteranodons.
Right, yeah.
That, to me, that was like, okay, so one of the loose ends of Jurassic Park 3 is these pteranodons flying off. Now, on one hand, you could say they're just free pteranodons. What is there really a narrative point to them? But we figured, well, yes, there could be if it was Hoskins, because that's how he got the job at Jurassic World. And him working around Jurassic World, that is very crucial to the plot. It's like, how did he get there? And
gives more credence to the whole idea when he looks over the park too and sees the pteranodons like attacking it.
Yeah, and it's like,
it's kind of like Darth Maul at the end of Solo, where he like stands up on his robotic legs. It's like, oh, you know, like, I know what happened in between. You know, it's just fun.
Yeah. But when it comes to like Sorna specifically, it's like, I'll state this, I know there are some fans out there who really didn't like what we wrote because they thought we murdered Sorna, essentially.
All you did was take what Michael Crichton did and made it film canon.
But I always state this, it's like, you're hearing it from the DPG's perspective.
Sure. And that might be very biased.
Yeah, and the fact is, in Fallen Kingdom, what we know is that the world believes Sorna is devoid of dinosaurs.
But that's very different
to the fact that
it could be fake news.
Exactly. Something has survived once before. Who's to say it could survive again? It's like that's the thing with these films, is they can write whatever they want, and so
that might be
it's never really a definitive full stop at the end of the sentence when it comes down to it. The main thing, the things we focused on with Sorna on the websites, was mainly to ignite the imagination around Jurassic Park 3 again, because, as I said, that was the weakest film in the franchise for myself, and I wanted to like light a fire under its ass and get it moving again. To be like, okay, let's rethink about this film, because in the marketing, as we said in the build-up, they were talking about how these are genetic experiments that no one knew about.
Right.
And it's like, and then they stopped the sentence there, and you're like, we want to know more.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what we didn't flat out write exactly what happened. We just wrote like another clue to the puzzle that would help ignite imaginations.
I love the fact that you're taking your time to actually properly discuss the Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor variants as well, because again, retconning aside with the whole Alan Grant's like looking at one on the plane in his dream, you should take my idea, by the way, say that like someone passed in a satellite image or something, but like it leads so many questions for those animals. And I like that you're taking the time, because you know fans are like so interested in this breed. You're like, okay, how can we do this properly? Like what? Like I like that, because Jurassic Park.
Well, we learned that lesson through Masrani Global, because we wrote some stuff, especially when we did the back door, and then like weeks or months down the line, we'd get things from fans going, "Well, hang on, this contradicts something," and we're like, oh man. And it was always like some little detail from some obscure interview or some obscure article or some magazine or some back of a crisp packet that had Lost World something on, and it would like explain something, and we're like, well, okay, we don't, that's why we're like, we should take time over this. And that's why the word, like I said, the wordplay, going back to like Hammond was very manipulative. We're also very manipulative.
Yeah, sure.
In the fact that when we write things like what we wrote on the DPG website, it's like nothing is a definitive answer, but the answer is on there. So like Hoskins getting the pteranodons in Canada, yes, that's a definitive answer. There's in the world of Jurassic, you got to think logically about it. There's no way that could have happened out of the public eye. Like that was in the public eye, it's published, that happened.
I can't believe
when they say things like these dinosaurs were off InGen's list, but they were made, and when these documents say that they were made under there's two titles for it, it's like, well, what's the real title? What was the reason? We never state it, but we give ideas of like what it could be. Right. And who knows, those two titles could be a lie. You never know. It's like, it's that and it's not to be awkward. It's to be like I said, it's meant to ignite imagination and let the fans go, okay, well, what could that be? And then ideas flourish, and then that helps us because we get feedback and we hear fans talk about ideas, and then we're like, you know, we can be like, okay, now we're presented with these new issues going forward, and and how can we make that work in the future? So that's why it's like that. There's never a definitive full stop at this time.
Would you personally like to see another story about Sorna, whether it be a movie, a short film, something that does go over all this stuff?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's like I said, if I had all the money in the world, I'd make a film about that. That would be my Jurassic Park film. I mean, that's like, not to go on the sidetrack too much, but Dino Defenders was like born out of the idea of going to a research facility to research dinosaurs in very scrupulous ways, like in ways that you wouldn't, you know, like the whole end of episode 2 with the logos appearing on the Dimetrodon's tails and stuff. It's like, that's the sort of thing I want to see. That, or I would do, well, actually, my number one Jurassic film, if I'm going to be actually honest, is a courtroom film completely set after the Santiago incident.
That'd be very interesting to see.
But no dinosaurs in the film.
Well, you're going to have to incorporate the other stuff with the courtroom scene, Jack. Come on, there's a quota.
No, it would be a solely courtroom drama about this lawyer and his troubles. It wouldn't actually be about the dinosaurs. You'd only ever see the dinosaurs on fuzzy VHS footage in the actual trials when they're bringing people up for questioning and all that sort of stuff. That's the only time you'd ever see them.
Oh,
like,
that's
off the shores of the beaches. They're zooming in on dinosaurs that are like near the ocean and this, that, and the other. No. But no, yeah, that's where I'm going to end it.
All right. Well,
I don't want to talk too much about future ideas because I might give away stuff that we've been holding on to for a while. So.
Well, look, one day all this stuff might be answered. For now, I think Isla Sorna as a place is just super mysterious. There's all kinds of questions that we could be asking and talking about in circles the whole time. And we didn't even talk about the hurricane. I don't want to talk about it, so we can just move on. Thanks for coming on, man. It's always cool to talk Jurassic with you. And I learned a lot today about just like where your headspace is on this stuff, and yeah, you've really given me a lot of stuff to think about, particularly with my whole molting childhood thought of how the dinosaurs' skull shapes change when they. I
mean, don't get me wrong, that's a cool sci-fi idea,
right?
Of, like, something that over a period of time starts to like change. I mean, I just had this vision of like. You see Eddie Carr pick up, you know, like in Alien, whenever they pick up like the skin of the molted chest burster. You see Eddie Carr pick up one, it's like this massive T-Rex head, and he's like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, it was a thought though. But yeah, it's always fun doing videos like this. One's going to be really long. I have no idea like how I'm gonna. Yeah, but hey, man,
an hour 43 at the moment, so
it's fun, man. Thanks again.
No worries. You look after yourself.
I will. Now, before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it seriously means the world to me that you all continue to support what I do, and I never want you to ever forget that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video, and hope that you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.